Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and we continue to stream stories of leadership, entrepreneurship, and how to deal with this economy. And I don't think there's an entrepreneur, an independent entrepreneur, a business person who isn't out there thinking about AI and how it's going to affect us in the next few years. I know I think about it, and I think about it in terms of every single client I work with and try to talk about the implications. And with that in mind, we like to check in regularly with Tom McNulty, intellectual property attorney at Lando and Anastasi. Welcome back, Tom.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Well, I don't know about you, but AI is constantly in the back of my mind as a source of anxiety, knowing what's coming and how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's a source of a lot of people's anxiety. I know we were discussing just now one of the bases behind the Hollywood writers' strike and the actors' strike is concerns about AI substantially replacing them. And I know the writers just settled, and they did get some protections regarding the use of AI to develop scripts or to create scripts. That's a concern in a whole bunch of other industries as well. And I thought today one of the things I'd like to talk about is what you as an entrepreneur, if you've got a business, if you've got employees, what you can do to protect your information from, particularly your confidential information, from disclosure through using AI models.
Well, that's important. I know that I've always based my work on originality, customized work for clients. So that would be a concern for me.
Yeah, and it should be a concern for a lot of people. One of the things that is important to basically any business is the ability to maintain their confidential information, their trade secret information, as protected, as not disclosed to the public. There's both national and state and common law trade secret rights that all require you take reasonable steps to protect the secrecy of your information as part of it qualifying for trade secret protection. And I think a lot of people have jumped into the AI game without really giving thoughts to whether what they're putting in is confidential or will remain confidential in the future, and that can have some pretty serious consequences. There were a few three Samsung employees recently, each independently using some form of AI, basically to, one of them was using it to check on confidential software, so confidential code that they were developing. One of them was using it to basically create code. There are AIs that will generate code for you. And a third was using a language model to basically collate and summarize various meetings and put it into a report. And in each of these instances, they were using, a web-based AI system. It wasn't something that Samsung itself had any confidentiality agreements with or any, particular contract. It was just subject to the general license. And under the terms of the general license, anything that was put in could be used to train the model, could end up being a part of somebody else's output. And Samsung basically publicly has acknowledged, yeah, we've lost trade secret protection on these three things. So it's very important as a business owner to have policies in place and to have thought them through on the use of AI by employees. I think that's the biggest risk right now, is that your employees will use chat GPT to prepare something without you being aware of it.
Well, I could see all of that happening. And, if it can happen to Samsung, it could happen to all of us. And some people would say, well, they're just a big company. But big companies sometimes can track their employees better than little companies.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a part of it. One big advantage that big companies will have in this area is they can perhaps develop their own internal AI system and train that up and not worry about that being available to the public. Or they can generate, or, not generate, but they can enter into, license agreements, specific agreements with some of these AI entities that smaller businesses and individuals won't be able to financially finagle. As is often the case these days, being big is its own sort of source of power. So in particular for entrepreneurs and for small startups, like I say, you really got to you really got to have thought through and have in place policies and procedures that employees are trained on and know about, that set up, what can be entered in, who can use AI, are there any particular programs that are acceptable and others that are not acceptable. The last of which may, depend considerably on what their, general terms of use are, whether the information you're feeding them can be used to train or can be output.
So I hope this is in the vein of what you're talking about. Let's say I'm creating a document, and this has not happened to me yet, and I use AI to help me create the document. So it has some of my own original thoughts, but AI is helping me to research and format or whatever it does. Does it become like a legal letter that if somebody wants it, my content is redacted? Or have I exposed myself to the world? Do I have to write a disclosure at the end of my document? I'm just thinking it's probably right now so far over my head, and I'm supposedly someone that people come to for expert advice.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that AI will not do any redactions, or at least all the AI systems with which I'm familiar, they will not do any redactions. And in terms of what somebody else may be able to access, one of the sort of characteristics of AI is it's kind of a black box. You put in a prompt and you don't know what's going to come out of it, and the AI developer doesn't know what's going to come out of it. I can tell you there have been lawsuits filed. There was recently a lawsuit filed against it's one of the AIs called I believe Codex. It develops code, and it's being sued for copyright infringement right now because it output, in response to a third party's prompt, it output a recognizable segment of somebody else's code that had apparently been input for training purposes or for whatever reason. So that's one of the concerns that you should also have in terms of using this, is if you're using output from an AI, you're not going to ever be sure that you're not violating somebody else's copyright, somebody else's trademark. There's just sort of no guarantees that it's going to be something you can cleanly use moving forward. And the AI systems are certainly not going to indemnify you. However, if you use AI and the AI system gets sued, and like in this case, they're suing the AI system that generated this code, most AIs do require you to indemnify them for if they get sued for whatever it is you're doing. So there's a little bit of I shouldn't say a little bit, there's a considerable imbalance there.
Well, it seems kind of messy. And
it's a little bit messy. And, like these things, it can just be that the random output happened to match up. But one of the concerns that I would have, and I'm not sure that this would in any way be legally improper, if two businesses are competing and working towards the same goal, I don't believe, to my knowledge, there would be nothing improper about somebody in one of the companies typing in what is company X inputting for prompts, what is company X working at, questions like that I don't know how currently these systems would handle such a question, and I don't know what they would do moving forward. But you can potentially ask very specific targeted questions about what somebody else has been doing, and you never know, you might get something out of it.
Well, I mean, I think about attorneys and their intellectual ability to stay up to date on things and estate planning and litigation. But isn't it much worse for someone in your field with AI? I mean, couldn't it potentially keep you up every night, all night, staying up to date as things change every day?
Oh, it's crazy. I know, AI systems, not that long ago, they could have a conversation with you. They'd get a lot of stuff wrong. There was a lot of stuff they sort of didn't know. AI systems are now passing PhD level exams in quantum mechanics. They're passing the bar exam. It's remarkable the speed at which they're developing. And part of it is it's really hard if you're just looking at a business's output or an individual's output. It's really hard to know if and to what extent any AI was used in generating that. And it does still get stuff wrong. It's not like it's got sort of a box of true facts and a box of false facts. It's just got whatever it's been input and whatever it throws together.
Again, you're making me think, and I don't know if you appreciate that or not. Could some, I'll use one general, could you have, let's say, magazines like the Harvard Business Review make it a prerequisite to any writers that AI is not used in the creation of any content? And that
Yeah,
would be something that would, to me, would be very interesting, that would be a prerequisite in even employment contracts with employees or things like that.
yeah, I think there are certainly entities that are doing that. I know, like in our profession, if you were to generate, a legal brief using AI and not really go through and proof it and check it in the whole 9 yards, you're probably committing malpractice. I know for a fact there have been people that have done that and submitted briefs to the court that I think we discussed this last time, that included case citations that don't actually exist. And the arguments were logical and the citations backed up their points that just never actually had taken place. And the attorney that was submitting the information basically admitted he didn't review it.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch the Screenwriters Guild, because as this decision comes down, I'm sure you're going to be looking at it and giving us your insights, because it's going to set probably a trend throughout many industries about what we're going to do. Is it really tight enough? Is it good enough? I assume the union has scrutinized this, and their attorneys have scrutinized this document enough. And because this is so important, and it's important to all industries, if someone wants to find you, Tom, and get more information, because this is affecting and will affect all of us, how would they do that?
They can find me at tmcnulty at lalaw.com. And I'm on the website, www.lalaw.com.
And for our listeners who are interested in AI and AI protection and the trends, you can find Tom every month, maybe more if we get lucky, on Radio Entrepreneurs.